Long before Rome became a powerful empire, it was only a small village near the Tiber River. The people who lived there were farmers, warriors, and settlers. They did not know that their home would change the history of the world. Rome was born from legends, conflicts, and ambition. The first Romans believed their city had a special destiny. But behind the stories of heroes, there were also struggles for survival and control. The small village would soon become the center of a great power, and its first battles would shape the future of Rome. According to Roman legend, the city was founded by two brothers, Romulus and Remus. They were raised by a wolf and later became leaders of their people. But the brothers could not share the same dream. They wanted power. They wanted control. Their disagreement became a tragic conflict. Romulus killed Remus and became the first king of Rome. This story shows something important about Rome. From the beginning, power was connected with violence. The city was built by people who believed strength was necessary to survive, and this idea would follow Rome for centuries. The early Romans quickly learned that survival required strength. Their neighbors were often enemies. Small wars happened again and again. Rome created an army that valued discipline and loyalty. Soldiers trained together. They followed orders. They fought as one group. This military culture became one of Rome's greatest advantages. While other cities depended on individual heroes, Rome depended on organization. Every battle became a lesson. Every victory increased Roman confidence. But the desire for expansion would soon bring Rome into larger and more dangerous conflicts. Rome was not built only by kings and generals. It was built by ordinary soldiers. Their weapons became symbols of Roman power. The short sword, the shield, and the disciplined formation changed the way Rome fought. Each soldier carried more than equipment. He carried the future of the city. Rome understood that a strong army could create political power. With every victory, new lands came under Roman control. But every conquest also created new enemies. The small city beside the river was becoming something much greater. As Rome expanded, other cities began to fear its growing power. Alliances broke. Old friendships disappeared. Enemies gathered against Rome. Before many battles, both sides stood in silence, waiting for the first movement. These moments decided the fate of thousands of people. Rome was not always the strongest army. But Roman leaders understood patience, planning, and discipline. They could lose battles and still return stronger. This ability made Rome dangerous. The city was learning how to survive every crisis. After many victories, Rome began to change. The small village became a growing city. Roads connected new territories. Markets became larger. More people arrived. But success created new problems. Wealth brought competition. Leaders wanted more influence. Powerful families started fighting for control. Rome was becoming stronger outside its walls. But inside the city, a dangerous struggle was beginning. The fight for power would soon become as important as the wars against foreign enemies. Rome was not ruled only by soldiers. The Senate became the center of political power. Wealthy families controlled decisions and competed for influence. Senators spoke about honor, tradition, and the future of Rome. But behind their words, there were often personal ambitions. Many wanted more power than others. They made alliances. They created enemies. Politics became another battlefield. In Rome, a person could win a war and still lose everything inside the Senate. In Rome, words could be as powerful as weapons. A speech could start a war. A decision could destroy a rival. Written messages carried orders across the growing republic. Behind every document, there was a person searching for influence. The Romans created a political system that inspired future nations. But their system also contained deep conflicts. The desire for power was always present. And soon, one man would rise above all others and change Rome forever. Rome continued to expand across the Mediterranean world. Its armies reached new lands. Its ships crossed dangerous seas. Its influence grew beyond Italy. But every victory brought more responsibility. Rome had gained wealth, territory, and enemies. The Republic was becoming too powerful for its old traditions. The system that created Rome's success was beginning to break under its own weight. Soon, the struggle for control would become a fight between powerful men, and one name would become impossible to ignore. Rome had become powerful, But power always creates new questions. Who should lead? Who should decide the future? The Republic had survived wars, enemies, and crises, yet its greatest challenge was coming from within. Ambitious leaders would soon fight for control of Rome itself. The old system would face its hardest test, and in the middle of this storm, a brilliant general would rise. His name was Julius Caesar. Julius Caesar was born into a noble Roman family, but he was not the richest or most powerful man in Rome. He understood something important. In Rome, popularity could become power. Caesar was intelligent, ambitious, and a skilled speaker. He built relationships with soldiers and ordinary citizens. He knew how to inspire loyalty. But ambition always has a price. The more power Caesar gained, the more his enemies feared him. His rise would change Rome forever, and the Republic would soon face its greatest political crisis. Caesar became famous during his campaigns in Gaul. His soldiers crossed rivers, forests, and mountains. They fought against many tribes and expanded Roman control. Caesar wrote about these campaigns and created his own image as a great leader. His victories made him a hero in Rome. His soldiers trusted him deeply. They followed him because they believed he could lead them to glory. But the Senate watched his success with fear. A powerful general with a loyal army was a dangerous person in the eyes of Roman politicians. Every victory changed Caesar's position in Rome. His name became famous. His wealth increased. His enemies became more worried. The map of Roman power was growing, but another map was forming inside the city. It was a map of alliances, fears, and betrayal. Senators began to ask a dangerous question. Could Caesar become too powerful? In Rome, a successful general could become a threat. The same victories that made Caesar a hero were also creating the path toward conflict. The Senate wanted Caesar to give up his command and return as a private citizen. They feared his army and his popularity. Caesar faced a difficult choice. If he obeyed, he could lose his power. If he refused, he could start a civil war. The future of Rome depended on one decision. For centuries, the Republic had been protected by tradition. Now, one man stood before those traditions. The moment of choice was approaching. In 49 BC, Caesar reached the Rubicon River. Crossing this river with his army was against Roman law. It meant war against the Republic. Caesar understood the danger. There was no easy return. According to tradition, he said the famous words, "The die is cast." At that moment, Rome changed forever. Caesar chose power over obedience. His army moved forward. A civil war had begun. The civil war spread across Roman territories. Romans fought against Romans. Friends became enemies. Families were divided. Caesar's army moved quickly, defeating his opponents one by one. The Republic was breaking apart. The conflict was no longer about foreign enemies. It was about the future of Rome itself. Would Rome remain a republic, or would one person control everything? After winning the Civil War, Caesar became the most powerful man in Rome. Many citizens respected him. He created reforms and helped the poor. But others saw a dangerous change. A republic built on shared power was now controlled by one leader. Caesar received the title of dictator for life. To his supporters, he was a strong leader. To his enemies, he was becoming a king. And Rome had always feared kings. The symbol of power became a symbol of fear. Some senators believed Caesar wanted to destroy the Republic completely. They began meeting in secret. They discussed a dangerous plan. They believed removing one man could save Rome. But history often shows that violence creates more uncertainty. The plan against Caesar was already moving forward, and soon Rome would witness one of the most famous betrayals in history. On March 15th, 44 BC, Caesar entered the Senate. He believed he was safe among Roman leaders, but his enemies were waiting. The senators moved around him. The attack began quickly. Caesar was surrounded by men he knew and trusted. The betrayal was not only political, it was personal. Rome's greatest general fell inside the place where decisions about power were made. The Republic had tried to save itself through violence, but the result would change Rome forever. Caesar's death shocked Rome. The men who killed him believed they had saved the Republic, but they had created a new crisis. The people were angry. The army was divided. The future was uncertain. The Republic was not restored. Instead, Rome moved closer to a new form of rule. The fall of Caesar was not the end of the story. It was the beginning of another struggle for power. After Caesar's death, Rome entered a dangerous period. The killers believed they had protected the Republic, but the city did not return to peace. Instead, new leaders appeared. Old alliances broke apart. New enemies were created. Rome had lost one powerful man, but the fight for power became even stronger. The Republic was weaker than ever before, and another generation of leaders would now compete for control of Rome's future. Among the people fighting for power was a young man named Octavian. He was Caesar's adopted heir. At first, many Romans underestimated him. He was young. He had little military experience. But Octavian understood politics. He learned from Caesar's victories and mistakes. He knew that power was not only won on the battlefield. It was also won through patience, alliances, and public support. The young heir was preparing for a long struggle. After Caesar's death, Rome was divided between powerful leaders. Octavian, Mark Antony, and other generals fought for influence. These were not wars against foreign enemies. They were Romans fighting Romans. Each side believed they were protecting the future of the city. But behind the speeches and promises, there was one goal: control. The person who won this struggle would decide the next chapter of Roman history. For a short time, three powerful men joined together. Octavian, Mark Antony, and Lepidus created an alliance called the Second Triumvirate. They promised to restore order, but this agreement was built on ambition. Each man wanted more power than the others. They shared control, but they also waited for the right moment to defeat their rivals. In Rome, alliances could change quickly. A friend today could become an enemy tomorrow. The alliance between Octavian and Mark Antony could not last forever. They were very different men. Antony was a famous general and a powerful speaker. Octavian was younger, but he was careful and patient. Slowly, their relationship became a competition. Both wanted to be the main leader of Rome. The conflict between them would decide the future of the Republic. Soon, Rome would face another great war. Far from Rome, another powerful figure entered the story. Cleopatra, the Queen of Egypt, was intelligent, educated, and politically skilled. She understood the importance of alliances. When she met Mark Antony, their relationship changed the balance of power. Together, they represented a challenge to Octavian. Rome and Egypt became connected through love, politics, and ambition. But this alliance would create a final confrontation for control of the ancient world. Cleopatra was not only known for her beauty. She was a skilled leader. She spoke several languages and understood diplomacy. She fought to protect Egypt's independence during a dangerous time. Her partnership with Antony was both personal and political. Together, they challenged Octavian's growing power. But Octavian used their relationship as a weapon. He presented them as a threat to Rome. The final battle was approaching. In 31 BC, the final struggle began at the Battle of Actium. Octavian's forces faced Antony and Cleopatra's fleet. The battle was not only about ships. It was about the future of the Mediterranean world. The losing side would lose everything. The sea became the stage for a historic decision. When the battle ended, Octavian had won. His enemies escaped, but their power was gone. After Actium, Octavian became the strongest person in Rome. The enemies who challenged him were defeated. The old republic was almost finished. Many Romans were tired of decades of war. They wanted peace and stability. Octavian understood this. He did not call himself a king. Instead, he created a new system where one person held the real power. Rome was entering a new age. The Republic was becoming an empire. The Roman Republic had survived for centuries. But war, ambition, and betrayal changed everything. Octavian would become Augustus, the first Roman emperor. The age of emperors had begun. Rome would reach its greatest size and power under this new system. But absolute power would always bring new dangers. The story of Rome was not only about victory. It was also about the cost of power. Under Augustus, Rome entered a new age. After years of civil war, the empire finally found stability. Roads connected distant lands. Trade increased. Cities grew. The Roman army protected the borders. Many people called this a time of peace. But this peace had a hidden cost. One man, now controlled the future of Rome. The Republic was gone, even as some old traditions remained. The empire had been born, and with it came a new question. What happens when one person has almost unlimited power? Augustus was different from many leaders before him. He did not rule through fear alone. He used images, laws, and careful political decisions. He wanted Romans to believe that he had restored order. He presented himself as a servant of Rome, not a king. But behind this image was a powerful ruler who controlled the army and the government. Augustus created a system that would last for centuries. The emperor had arrived, and Rome would never be the same. The strength of Rome depended on its army. Thousands of soldiers guarded the empire's borders. They built forts, roads, and defensive walls. Roman soldiers lived far from home for many years. They followed strict rules and trusted their commanders. The army gave Rome security, but it also created another danger. A powerful general with loyal soldiers could challenge the emperor. This problem would appear many times throughout Roman history. The emperor's power appeared everywhere. His image was printed on coins. His name was written on official documents. His orders traveled across thousands of miles. The Roman system depended on communication and control. People in distant provinces knew the name of their emperor. They saw his symbols every day. This created unity across a massive empire, but it also created a dangerous idea. The emperor was not only a leader, he was becoming a symbol of Rome itself. Rome was powerful, but it was not invincible. Beyond its borders, many groups resisted Roman expansion. Some wanted freedom. Others wanted Roman wealth. The empire constantly fought to protect its territory. Every victory created more confidence. Every defeat created fear. Rome's leaders knew that one mistake could damage the entire empire. The borders were always under pressure, and sometimes the greatest threats came from inside Rome itself. Not every emperor protected Rome's greatness. Some used power for personal pleasure and control. Nero became one of the most controversial rulers in Roman history. He loved art and performance, but many Romans saw him as cruel and unpredictable. His rule was filled with fear, political violence, and accusations. The empire learned a dangerous lesson. A strong system could still suffer under a weak leader. In 64 AD, a massive fire destroyed large parts of Rome. The disaster changed the city forever. Thousands of people lost their homes. Fear spread through the streets. The cause of the fire remains debated by historians. But the event damaged Nero's reputation. Many Romans believed their emperor had failed them. In times of crisis, people looked for someone to blame, and Rome's trust in its ruler began to disappear. As Nero lost support, rebellion began. Generals in different regions turned against him. The emperor who once controlled Rome now struggled to survive. The army that protected emperors could also remove them. Nero's fall showed a new reality of Roman politics. The throne belonged to the person who could control power, and when that control disappeared, even an emperor could fall. After Nero's death, Rome entered a period of uncertainty. Several leaders fought for the imperial throne. The empire discovered a dangerous truth. The army had become one of the most important forces in choosing emperors. Rome was powerful, but its politics were unstable. The struggle for power continued, and the greatest challenges of the empire were still ahead. Rome created one of the greatest civilizations in history. Its roads, laws, and culture influenced the world. But behind the glory, there was a darker story. Ambition, fear, and betrayal were always present. Emperors could bring peace or destruction. The empire could rise because of strong leaders, but it could also suffer because of them. Rome's greatest battle was not only against enemies outside its borders. It was a battle for power inside itself. At its height, Rome controlled one of the largest empires the world had ever seen. From Britain to Egypt, Roman influence reached millions of people. Roads, laws, and trade connected distant lands. The empire created a powerful system that lasted for generations. But every great empire faces the same challenge. How can it remain strong forever? Rome had wealth and power, but it also carried internal problems that slowly began to grow. Not all Roman emperors were driven only by ambition. Marcus Aurelius was known as a thoughtful leader and philosopher. He wrote about duty, patience, and responsibility. But his reign was difficult. He faced wars, disease, and political problems. Even a wise emperor could not escape the challenges of ruling a massive empire. His life showed a different side of Roman power. Being emperor was not only about glory, it was also about carrying a heavy burden. Rome's borders were never completely safe. Beyond the rivers and forests, different peoples challenged Roman control. Soldiers spent years fighting far from home. These wars protected the empire, but they also exhausted its resources. Maintaining such a large territory required enormous effort. The army was Rome's greatest strength, but was also becoming a heavy responsibility. The empire had reached its peak, but pressure was increasing. Rome faced another enemy that armies could not defeat. Disease spread across the empire. The Antonine Plague affected soldiers and civilians. Many people died. Cities became quieter. Trade slowed. The empire lost workers and soldiers. A powerful civilization depended on millions of people. When those people suffered, Rome itself became weaker. The crisis revealed how fragile even the greatest empire could become. The problems of Rome were not only outside its borders. Inside the empire, political conflicts continued. Leaders disagreed about money, military decisions, and succession. Powerful families competed for influence. The old traditions of Rome were becoming harder to maintain. The empire was too large, and controlling everything became more difficult. Rome was strong, but cracks were beginning to appear. As the empire became harder to control, Roman leaders searched for solutions. The territory was enormous. Communication was slow. Different regions had different challenges. Eventually, Rome began to divide its power between East and West. This decision helped administration for a time, but it also created a deeper separation. The empire that once seemed united was becoming two different worlds. Constantine became one of the most important emperors in Roman history. He changed the empire in many ways. He supported Christianity and moved the center of power toward the east. A new capital was built at Constantinople. Rome was transforming. The old city remained important, but the future of the empire was moving in another direction. The Roman borders faced increasing pressure from migrating groups and invading armies. Some wanted land. Others escaped conflicts in their own regions. Rome struggled to control the movement of people across its frontiers. The empire that once expanded into new territories was now fighting to protect what already had. The greatest danger was approaching. In 476 AD, the Western Roman Empire came to an end. The event was not a single moment of destruction. It was a result of many years of problems. Political struggles, economic difficulties, and military pressure weakened Rome. The city that once ruled a vast empire was no longer the center of power. But the story of Rome did not disappear. Its ideas continued to influence the world. Rome fell, but its influence survived. Its laws, language, architecture, and ideas shaped many societies. The empire was built through ambition and military power. It was damaged by the same struggles that created it. Rome's history is a story of greatness and warning. It shows how civilizations rise, how they change, and how they can fall. But one final question remains. What lessons can the world learn from Rome's long journey? The Roman Empire disappeared, but Rome itself never truly vanished. Across Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East, Roman ideas remained alive. Roads became paths for future cities. Laws influenced new governments. Latin languages continued to develop. The empire was gone, but its influence traveled through time. Rome became more than a place. It became a memory that shaped the future. One of Rome's greatest contributions was its system of laws. Roman ideas about citizenship, contracts, and government influenced many societies. The Romans believed that rules could organize a vast empire. Their legal traditions survived long after emperors disappeared. Even today, many countries study ideas that began in ancient Rome. The empire fell, but some of its foundations remained. The Romans were also builders. They created roads, bridges, and aqueducts that connected their world. These structures helped armies move, supported trade, and brought water to cities. Roman engineering showed organization and creativity. Their buildings were designed to last. Many ruins still stand today as evidence of their skill. Rome did not only conquer lands, It transformed them. The history of Rome was not created only by emperors. Millions of ordinary people built the empire every day. Soldiers protected borders. Workers built cities. Farmers provided food. Citizens created communities. Behind every great civilization are the lives of ordinary people. Their stories are often forgotten, but they were the foundation of Rome's greatness. Rome was a civilization of contradictions. It created beautiful cities and terrible wars. It developed laws, but also used oppression. It built impressive monuments, while millions suffered under its control. The story of Rome is not simple. It is a story of human ambition, creativity, violence, and change. Understanding Rome means seeing both its achievements and its darker moments. Thousands of years have passed since Rome ruled the ancient world, yet its influence can still be found everywhere. Cities, languages, laws, and political ideas carry pieces of Roman history. The empire became a lesson studied by generations. Its rise shows human ambition. Its fall shows human weakness. Rome remains one of history's greatest stories. Standing among the ruins of Rome, it is possible to imagine the voices of the past. Generals, emperors, citizens, and workers all left their mark. Their victories and mistakes created a story that continues today. Rome reminds us that power is temporary. Great civilizations can rise quickly, but they must face their own weaknesses. History remembers both their glory and their failures. The symbols of Rome tell a complete story. The sword represents conquest. The coin represents power. The written word represents ideas that survived. Rome was built by many forces working together. Some created greatness. Others created destruction. The history of Rome is a reminder that every choice can shape the future. Rome was more than an empire. It was a human story. A story of dreams, conflicts, victories, and failures. People built it. People changed it. People destroyed parts of it. But the ideas created during those centuries continue to travel. Rome became a bridge between the ancient world and the modern world. The story of ancient Rome is a story about power and responsibility. It shows how ambition can create greatness, but also destruction. Rome gave the world incredible achievements, but it also revealed the dangers of uncontrolled power. Thousands of years later, we still study its rise and fall. What part of Roman history surprised you the most? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe to the channel and like this video for more historical stories in English.